Are we ready to start, Kemya?
So let's give it a minute so that people
Okay.
can join it.
Okay.
I'll hint you when we can start.
Yeah. Are you taking a photograph of all together?
We'll take a screenshot, sir, while everybody's have their cam on. We can do
Yeah.
that.
I've never seen one, but I think Ujjwala used to tell me that she's taking a screenshot.
Yes, we've done that for our last webinar as well, sir, with safety.
I only think is I've never seen one. Today is 98th webinar. I've never seen one.
I'll
So
send it to you this time.
It's a myth to me, the story. So please share with me once you,
Sure.
once you take it.
Yes, Keith.
देसाई राठौड़ ने जरा फोन में आप बंद करो तो मैं जरा कर जो ना बात कर लो ना शू कैसे है नो फोन અને આ બંધ કરો Can we start? It's already 8 o'clock and 2 minutes, Kamya.
Yes, sir. We can start.
Okay, thank you very much. To friends and colleagues, Payo Beno, welcome to the 98th webinar of INHAF series on Rethinking City. As you know, INHAF has been hosting these webinars for close to 3 years now. It started during the lockdown of the COVID pandemic, and having found it a valuable tool of communication, ideas, and sharing views and perspectives on complex issues of urbanization and city development, we are persisting with it. Nearing a century of webinars, we are both excited and introspective. During this longish journey, we explored some 40 themes and sub-themes through as many as 500 urban experts, professionals, specialists, and community groups. And we also had some 60 partner organizations with whom we have planned and presented these webinars. Today's webinar on women in the transport sector, Rethinking Urban Mobility, is second part of the series on women and mobility. We are grateful to Safety Pin for the partnership, for the contribution and help in organizing these events. I must also thank Anchor for today's event, Sonali Vyas, who is Associate Director of Safety Pin. We are grateful also to the panel members for the time and contribution. Thank you, Sanjay Biswas ji, Hida Allen, Shrinivas Rao ji, Damini ji, Stefanie Holzwarth, Neha Prakash, and Sheela ji. Before handing this over to Sonali ji to conduct the session, let me take a few minutes to tell you about the objective and purpose of this webinar series. Why is INHAF doing this? What do we plan and hope to achieve through this effort? There are four important considerations or assumptions based on which we started this. First, despite being engines of growth and centers of culture, technology, knowledge, and global attention and investment, our cities are not in pink of health. Be that small or big, be that industrial or commercial city, be that district town or state capital, and be that environment or water or governance or planning or slums or housing or rivers. They are all saddled with major challenges. This is the first conclusion we drew. Two, the cities as they are and the way they grow and develop do not look like meeting the challenge of unprecedented urbanization India is witnessing. It neither looks like providing safe and healthy quality of living to 870 million people who will be there in the cities in 30 more years, almost double of today, nor does it look like delivering on 7 to 8% economic growth the country expects to get rid of its poverty and emerge as an economic superpower. Third point is that the government effort alone is not adequate to ensure healthy, livable, productive, inclusive, and sustainable cities. And the last one, the wider society, the human capital outside the government system, that includes academic institutions, professionals, civil society, corporate, and the private sector, has the required skills, knowledge, experience, and even motivation to contribute meaningfully in search of alternative approaches, fresh ideas, and new solutions. This webinar series is a part of a wider national societal effort aimed to bringing in not only fresh ideas and new perspectives, but also new voices and a new collectivism, new togetherness, new partnership, and new energy in articulating the need for and ways to rethinking our cities, both redefining the urban challenge and finding more effective ways to addressing it. It is taking the urban challenge to the people. It is preparing people to engage and contribute. It is making urban development challenge a societal challenge, a people's challenge, along with that of governments, everyone else. So that is what is the aim and objective. While we reach the 100 webinar landmark, I must admit we are questioning a great deal in terms of how much have we achieved, how far have we reached. One conclusion is absolutely clear, that there is a long, long way to go in terms of our ambition and in terms of our expectations. So with that kind of longish introduction, Sonali ji, now is all yours. Please go ahead and conduct the webinar. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Kirti ji. Hello, everyone. I'm Sonali Vyas, working as Associate Director for Safety Pin, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. This webinar titled Women in Transport Sector, Rethinking Urban Mobility is the second of the two-part webinar series on women and mobility. While the first webinar we conducted in October 2023, it focused on highlighting the key mobility-related challenges faced by women commuters This second webinar would focus on experiences and concerns of women engaged in the transport sector globally. We aim to bring center stage the voices of women working in the transport sector. Before we dive in, I want to take a minute. I would like to invite Kalpana Vishwanath, CEO of SafetyPin, to set the context for our topic.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you so much, Kirti Bhai, for having this partnership with us. Again, I think we had two right in the beginning when you started this during COVID, and then this two-part series now. So we are actually delighted to have this partnership. And I think INHAF and Kirti Bhai you've really done a fantastic job. We're waiting for you to hit the century. I'm really delighted that we're sort of ending this year on this particular topic, and we are really happy to see the participants and the speakers on this panel today. I'm really happy that SafetyPin's old partners and friends from Heather Allen, Stephanie from UN Habitat, Shrinivas from Azad Foundation, Neha and Shilpa from the ITF. These are all sort of people who have been working on this issue for a very long time. As Sonali mentioned, this is a two-part series, and I think for us also it has been a big learning. A lot of the work that we've been doing for the past few years around women and mobility has focused on how women as commuters and users of cities and public transport face challenges. But over the past year or couple of years, there's been more and more excellent research on women as participants, women as part of the transport sector. And I think that today's panel is really going to unpack this. As part of SafetyPin's 10th anniversary last month, we actually had a physical panel on this issue of women in the transport sector. And I think it's something that even I'm really looking forward today to learn about the challenges, the struggles, but also the successes that many women have had entering this sector. They're trailblazers. And I think we are all looking towards a very distinct change in the nature of transport once it is much more diverse. So thank you very much to everyone for being here. And back to you, Sonali.
Thank you, Kalpana. And today we have a great lineup of panelists or speakers from the sector, from the transport sector. They have been working on women's participation in the transport sector through innovative solutions, program, and policy intervention. I would not like to take much time from them, but I would like to give them the stage. Let us hear from them and learn about some of the good practices adopted by them, adopted by cities, to encourage women across age, socio-economic backgrounds, physical ability to use transport and work in the transport sector. We will now begin with Shrinivas Rao, who is a feminist social worker with years of grassroots experience working on citizen leadership, participatory, and local self-governance. As the national lead at Azad Foundation, he has implemented some innovative participatory city planning and leadership development programs in urban contexts. And today, Shrinivas Rao, we would like to know your journey, Azad's journey of empowering women in the non-traditional sectors with a focus on the transport sector. And along the journey, what have been your key challenges and learnings working with the city government and the transport department? Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sonali, and thank you. Good to see Kalpana here and Kirti Bhai. So I'll just start with a very brief presentation on our work. Share my screen. So, okay, everybody can see the screen? Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay.
You can.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think Azad, I just very briefly about Azad, we started as an organization in 2008 to work on livelihoods with dignity for women. When we were looking at the various livelihoods that resource poor women were involved in, mostly they were traditional in nature. So we figured out there are a couple of problems. A, they were marginal incomes. B, they were not remunerative enough, and there was no upward mobility in terms of their work. So we looked at, we have to do something which is non-traditional. And finally, since we started our work in Delhi, and Delhi being a city which is considered to be very unsafe for women, especially in public spaces, we looked at driving as a profession. Driving because we believe that the biggest impediment that patriarchy put in front of a woman is to restrict her mobility. So I think women taking control of the wheels is in a very symbolic way, not just about taking control of the wheel, but also taking control of their life. So therefore, our vision is where the women are able to exercise control over their lives and bodies and generate wealth through, through the work that they do. And as an organization, we are committed to enable resource poor women across, they are poor marginalized by gender, caste, class, ethnicity, religion, various ways of marginalization to create an enabling environment, create a gender-just society where women are able to go out, work, earn livelihoods, dignity, and most importantly, work in the markets that were otherwise close to the women. So, and the context we all know, as Kirti Bhai has already said. So, while India, it's a paradoxical that India is a very is an economy which is $5 trillion and soon be $10 trillion. But if you look at the women's participation in economy, in many senses, India lags significantly. So women's work rate participation has been dwindling, and there are various factors which are also we try to put it here. So for us, the way we look at it, unpaid care work is a very important aspect because the double shift, as we call it, neither the work is valued nor it is seen, appreciated. So that is one area. Then gender wage gap, violence is a big issue. So Azad's, the entire work that we do in communities and with the city is set up in this context where there is a fair degree of marginalization and the issues that we all know. So how do we do it? So as an organization, Azad, the way we look at the entire ecosystem and the problem is we have tried to look at from an ecosystem approach where we start with working in communities where we call it engage. Where we engage in communities with women, in various communities to kind of work with them to create an environment of gender equality. We provide enough information to women where they can make these kinds of choices. We help them get the citizenship document, help them access whatever is required so that they can come for a livelihood training like ours, which is Women with Wheels. Then the other part of our strategy is to again work with them, transform, where we engage and transfer. We have a 6-month long training program. We call it Women with Wheels, where we work with them very closely to make sure that they become professional women chauffeurs. So when we say transform, the entire work of Azad is based on what we call it participatory learning methodologies. We make sure that women that come to Azad is given enough exposure that they become successful drivers. So there are a lot of things that next slide I'll also explain a bit more about it. But basically, we believe that when women are into this training program, we just don't talk about skills. We call it skill plus plus because we believe that skill is important, but the other factors in life sometimes create so much of challenges for women. If they are not addressed, just skill will not be enough. The other one where our strategy is, so as an organization, Therefore, I think with Azad, Damini is here, but she'll speak about more about the challenges that the women drivers face. The fact that when we started in 2008, none of the cab companies were ready to employ women drivers. So therefore, with Azad, the sister concern Sakha was born because at that time in 2008, there was no market player was ready to risk to have women drivers. So Sakha came into existence, and over the last 10, 12 years, what we have been able to do is to open up market, convince market that actually having women drivers is in their benefit, because market always understand the language of benefit and profit. So I think that is something that has been done. So Azad, between Azad and Sakha, as a women with wheels model, we have been able to push the envelope and bring women into various, you can say, sectors within transport. So where women become chauffeurs, drivers, bus drivers, and even truck drivers now. And the other important aspect of our work is to sustain them. One is employ them, but also remain in the market with whatever imperfect way the market operates. How do you make sure that they remain in the market, where we, as an organization, with our advocacy effort, also policy engagement effort, have worked with the state, with the market, to bring this whole point that there has to be a supportive ecosystem for women if the women has to sustain in the marketplace. So for instance, you can't expect women to do a 8 hours bus shift if you don't have workable, safe washrooms or crash facilities. There are certain enablers that are required if women have to survive in this transport business. So that is something that we are working with state to make sure that, and as we are all talking about inclusive cities. Inclusive cities also means it has to be inclusive for women, including transport, but also the infrastructure. So if women want to have, so for instance, working women hostel, unless and until there are these kinds of enablers, it is difficult to sustain women in the marketplace. Okay, is it? I don't know why I'm not able to move the screen. This is got stuck. Sorry.
Rasa, we are getting a bit of an echo.
Okay, let me just stop it and share again. I think this got stuck somewhere. Is it visible now? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, no, the other one is not somehow coming. Let me just, sorry. Let me just start again. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. So I was speaking about this. So our model that we generally work with, that is our skill plus module, where we not just, it is not just about skill training, it is about empowerment, it is about professionalism. So a lot of our module, you can say 65 to 70% of our module are designed at creating the environment or creating something where women are able to, that whole journey from I cannot, I can, where from self-defense to, professionalism, English speaking, understanding computer, digital transformation, technology, understanding technology, working with the market. All these things are part of our curriculum. Apart from that, we also, as an organization, are very, family is a very important unit. So a lot of our support structure is also there about supporting her and her family. So if a woman has to go out and work, then who will do the unpaid care work in the family? How the work distribution happen at the family level? So I think going up to that details are very important. If women have to go out and work for 8 hours, there is someone in the family who needs to also take care of responsibility. Mostly the men have to take care of a lot of these things. So how do you prepare them to make sure that women do not face this double burden and tire out? So I think these kinds of issues are there, and unless if you don't address them holistically, then in a long run it may not work. So this is something that we have done, and this is something that we do as part of our work. in Azad. And I think these are some of the critical factors. One, how do you make family far more responsible, and someone who can share the burden, and the marketplace. These are two areas where one has to work very closely if a woman were to succeed in the transport business, or for that matter in any business. And very briefly about what we have been able to do over the years. So now, across the cities in India, at least, there are more than 3,000 women drivers who are working as chauffeurs. Cumulatively, they would have earned more than 20 crore rupees as part of their incomes, and would have provided 2.2 million safe rides to their passengers. And because the fact that the work is around addressing issues of violence, addressing issues around control, so we can say these women who are drivers, definitely they exercise their right to mobility. A lot of them have been able to say no to violence, stand up against violence. A lot of them have started getting their education, and a lot of them have been able to create wealth for themselves, having a house on their name or something. So that kind of a thing. Now, over the last 2 years, we have shifted our focus to heavy commercial transport, which is buses. So now we have so many of women from Azad, trained by Azad, who are now working with the DTC, and we are also working with other transport departments in Rajasthan and in Chennai or in Kolkata to make sure that women go and work there. And there are barriers that can be broken. So that's where, and then I'm sure Damini will give a very personalized kind of experience about what women face, what kind of challenges that they face. So thank you so much. I hope I've taken not more than what is required. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Shrinivas. Yes, I think in this male-dominated sector of transport, one of the important thing that Azad Foundation is doing is skilling, because unless and until, like how you said, giving women taking control over wheels, that's how they are able to take control over their own mobility and improving also in the process, they are also improving their own financial status. So now I'll move to Damini. Damini, to just a brief introduction about Damini. Damini has been working as a driver for 2 years, and she holds a heavy vehicle driving license. And with exceptional professional skills, she's now preparing to work as a trailer truck driver. She dreams of supporting her family financially, building her own house, and fulfilling all her aspirations. Damini is Sakha driver. I would now invite Damini to share her journey, her experience, and learning so that more and more women can join the sector. She will be speaking in Hindi, but I'll summarize later in English. Damini, अब आप अपने बारे में कुछ बताइए. अब आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, आपकी जो जर्नी रही है एज ए ड्राइवर, आपने क्या क्या चैलेंजेस फेस किए हैं या किस तरह की मुश्किलें आपको आई है, और अब जब आप एक हेवी व्हीकल ड्राइविंग लाइसेंस से आप एक ट्रेलर ट्रक ड्राइवर बनने जा रही हैं, तो उसमें आपकी क्या क्या और आकांक्षाएं हैं.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Damini, and मुझे आजाद सखा में मुझे जस्ट अभी 2 ही साल हुए हैं, और मैं अपनी फैमिली के साथ दिल्ली में ही रहती हूँ. एंड मेरा आजाद के साथ सबसे ज्यादा अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस ये रहा है कि मुझे बहुत सारी चीजें सीखने को मिली हैं. और आजाद से पहले मैं कहीं भी कुछ भी नहीं करा है, ना ही कहीं कुछ काम, कुछ भी. मतलब मैं प्रोफेशनली फर्स्ट टाइम जो भी चीजें मैंने सीखी है वो आजाद से सीखी हैं. घर से बाहर निकलना, ट्रेवल करना, अपने ट्रेनिंग के लिए कैसे आपको मतलब चीजें फेस करना पड़ता है. तो आजाद से मैंने बहुत सारी चीजें सीखी है मैम, और मैंने आजाद से जीपीएस वगैरह सीखा है, जो मुझे अब बहुत ज्यादा चीजें समझ आती हैं. और आजाद से हमें अपने ऊपर कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डअप कैसे करते हैं ये चीज भी सीखी है। एंड
आप कुछ अपने
मैंने
हाँ हाँ
यस
हाँ,
मैम।
बोलिए 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 बोलिए।
एंड मैम मुझे आजाद से बहुत सारी चीजें सीखने को भी मिली है और बहुत सिखाने को भी मिला है जो मैं अपने बहन भाई को भी सिखा सकती हूँ। एंड मेरा 2019 में आजाद को ज्वाइन किया था। एंड उसके 1 साल के बाद मैंने ट्राई किया था जॉब के लिए, बट कोविड की वजह से वो रह गया। देन उसके बाद मैंने सखा में ज्वाइन किया है 2021 से। मेरा डायरेक्टली कमर्शियल में ज्वाइनिंग हुआ है, जो कि मुझे डायरेक्ट एयरपोर्ट पे ड्यूटियां मिली है। तो मुझे सखा में सबसे ज्यादा सीखने को मिला है, आप कमर्शियली आपको मतलब एयरपोर्ट की ड्यूटियां हो या एम्बेसी की ड्यूटी हो या अगर आप किसी प्राइवेट गाड़ी चलाते हो, तो मतलब हर चीज का एक अपना अपना एक तरीका है, हर ड्यूटी का अपना एक एक्सपीरियंस है जो कि मुझे सखा से मिला है सबसे ज्यादा। क्योंकि मैम इससे पहले मैंने कहीं भी कुछ भी काम नहीं किया, तो ये मेरा फर्स्ट एक्सपीरियंस है जो मैंने सीखा आजाद से है। और अब मैं सखा में जॉब कर रही हूँ आजाद के जरिए। एंड अभी मेरे पास हैवी लाइसेंस है, तो अभी मैं लाइट व्हीकल से हैवी व्हीकल में जा रही हूँ, तो मुझे इस बात की बहुत ज्यादा खुशी है। एंड मैं
जी दामिनी, आप जब आपने कहा कि आपके एयरपोर्ट की ड्यूटी आती है, एम्बेसी की ड्यूटी आती है, कभी जब आप गाड़ी चलाते हैं तो उसके रास्ते में आपको किसी तरह की कोई परेशानी आई, या जैसे कि जो कस्टमर्स होते हैं, क्या उन्होंने आपको देख के आप ऐसा समझा कि आप लड़की हैं कि कैसे ड्राइव कर रहे हैं, या किसी तरह का भेदभाव हुआ आपके साथ?
मैम मोस्टली तो आज तक नहीं हुआ है ये चीज। एयरपोर्ट पे मतलब जो भी अगर हमें देखता है कि हम गाड़ी चला रहे, तो वो सबसे पहले तो सरप्राइज हो जाते हैं कि हम लेडीज होके मतलब ये काम कर रहे हैं, व्हीकल लाइन में है। तो ये जेंट्स के लिए बहुत बड़ा एक चैलेंज है कि मतलब हम लेडीज उस चीज में इंक्लूड है जो सिर्फ जेंट्स कर सकते थे, अब लेडीज भी कर रही हैं। एंड मैम चैलेंज सिर्फ हमें सिर्फ छोटी छोटी चीजें इफेक्ट करती है। जैसे अगर हमारा नाइट में ड्यूटी होता है, तो उसमें पब्लिकली चीजें मिलना बहुत मुश्किल होता है। जैसे वॉशरूम हो गए मैम। एंड लड़कियों के लिए सबसे ज्यादा एक तो वॉशरूम ही प्रॉब्लम है, चाहे डे हो या नाइट हो। एंड सेकंड चीज गैराज होना मतलब बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी लगता है, जो एनी टाइम खुला रहे।
और आपके कोई
एंड
रेस्ट एरिया, बीच में आपको रेस्ट करना होता है कि ड्यूटी के बीच में, इस तरह का?
मैम ड्यूटी के बीच में अगर रेस्ट का होता है, तो हम सबसे पहले अपने लिए कोई एक सेफ रोड देखते हैं जहाँ पे पब्लिक आती जाती हो।
और आपने अपनी जर्नी में ऐसा देखा है कि कितने लोग हैं जो नाइट ड्यूटी करते हैं, क्या या क्या सभी प्रेफर करते हैं नाइट ड्यूटी?
यस मैम। मैम मैंने तो मोस्टली सबको ही देखा है नाइट ड्यूटी करते हुए, क्योंकि मैंने आज तक बस उनको शॉक होता है कि हम नाइट ड्यूटियां कर रहे हैं लेडीज होके। बाकी सभी करते हैं नाइट ड्यूटी, तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। बस थोड़ा थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम आता है, जो छोटी छोटी चीजें होती हैं।
और ये छोटी छोटी सी चीजों के बारे में बताएंगे जो आप लोग सब मिलकर कैसे इसे सॉल्व करते हैं?
मैम जैसे रिसेंटली अगर गाड़ी में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो जाए, गाड़ी का टायर पंचर हो जाए, तो हमें फिर वही चीजें अपनी याद आती है जो हमने आजाद में सीखा था व्हीकल मेंटेनेंस को लेके। अपनी स्टेपनी मतलब अपनी वार्निंग लाइट जलाना गाड़ी का, अपना स्टेपनी जैक सब चीजें निकालना, उसे चेंज करना। फिर उसके बाद हम सबसे पहले तो ये देखते हैं अगर हमारी गाड़ी के साथ कुछ भी इनकेस हुआ है तो हम सबसे पहले गाड़ी को साइड में लगाते हैं। उसके बाद हम अपनी पहले चेक करते हैं गाड़ी में प्रॉब्लम क्या है। अगर वो चलने लायक है तो हम उसे कोशिश करते हैं कि वो सेफली एक जगह पे पहुंचे जहाँ पे हम और दूसरी हेल्प ले सकें। और अगर लगता है कि गाड़ी कंडीशन नहीं चलने की है तो फिर हम 24/7 को कॉल करते हैं।
थैंक यू दामिनी। मैं ना इसको थोड़ा समराइज करती हूँ बाकी लोगों के लिए, और
ओके
मैं आपके पास वापस आऊंगी अगर कुछ और सवाल आए हमारे ऑडियंस से। ठीक है, थैंक यू दामिनी।
ओके मैम, ओके।
So, Damini has been talking about her experience of working as Sakha driver for 2 years now. She said that prior to joining Sakha training, she never stepped out of her house, and that was her first big step, that first big step towards her financial freedom, and that gave her confidence, and also in some ways, and now that she's also passing on this training, this understanding to her siblings also. The training actually started right how Shrinivas talked about that GPS, right from the GPS navigation as well as vehicle maintenance and also the driving. When she started as a light vehicle. Now she's very happy that she's moving to the heavy vehicle. She started as a commercial driver or at airport and embassy, and she was talking about her experience, how customers used to react, or when they even now whenever they see a woman driving late at night, they first get surprised, oh, it's a lady driver, and then they also get surprised that a woman is driving at night. With night duty, there are certain challenges also. The challenges like finding clean washrooms, which are well maintained and safe, and also garages which can provide them help in case of any emergency, which are open 24/7. And when I asked her about the restrooms, in our cities, if you have if you in this Uber, Ola, and this blue smart era, we can all see there are certain parts of our city which is frequented by these taxis or the cab drivers. They have made as a hangout spaces, and most of these spaces are dominated by males. And so that was my reason why I was trying to press her, where do these women go? And she told me that they have their own set of criteria to rest along the way or between their duties. They find something which is safe road. They considered a road as safe where there are a lot of people who are moving around, where there are lights, and that gives them a sense of feeling, okay, we will feel safe here. And they are also and she also mentioned about how the training with Azad helped them in the big part about vehicle maintenance, because most of the women drivers, even at the private women drivers, we are not taught how to maintain our own cars. So that's the one particular skill that she was saying that
Sonali, you're on mute.
Sonali, you went on mute.
I'm sorry. Okay. I hope the last part was that I was saying that she has been very happy getting this experience, and now she's looking forward for her next chapter, which is moving to heavy vehicles. So thank you, Damini. And
So
at this
can
point,
I add something? Sorry, can I add? Because
sure.
I think she was a little nervous. So a couple of things about Damini. One, she has become the principal breadwinner in her family. And secondly, I think she has been able to take a lot of decisions for her, like her siblings' education. She's investing quite heavily to make sure that she dropped out of the school because of financial resources and constraint. Now she's making sure her siblings get a good education. These are two factors I think Damini did not mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrinivas, for adding that. And I think that's the big learning, and that's the big push for why we need more women, and taking control of their own mobility, as well as getting the financial stability. With this, I would like to remind our audience that they can drop in questions for our speakers in the chat box, while we now move to our next speaker, who is Sheela Sanjay. She is the Women Organizing Secretary of Maharashtra State Transport Kamgar Sangathan and a Women Committee member of International Transport Federation. She has been working for women's issues in road transport sector for the last 25 years. She has been fighting for women drivers and conductors issues and has been successful in achieving fruitful results. So let's hear from her that given that transport is a male dominated sector, can you talk about systemic exclusion and what women workers are doing about it? Over to you, Sheela.
Namaste to everybody. Thank you, Kirti bhai, Sonali ji, Kalpana ji, Kimya ji. And also, I would like to mention my special thanks to Brother Shrinivas Rao and Damini ji, those who are working with us. So, Sonali introduced me. From last 35 years, I'm working in transport sector as an employee and now as a trade union leader. So this is not a easy journey. When I start my work at that time, there are very few women workers are there in the transport sector. In 1998 up to 98, there are very few women workers in the Maharashtra State Road Transport Corporation. This is the public transport sector. And those women are working only on the administrative staff, just like as a clerk, typist, peon, or anything. But in 2003, our government and management take one decision to recruit women conductors in the that sector. And as per the their announced, they recruited women conductors in our sector. And the women are now coming in this sector. Though the women are coming, their problems are also coming in this sector. So at that time, I'm very new in my sector also, and we are all are scattered in Maharashtra. Some are working in the Chandrapur, some are in Gadchiroli, some are in Mumbai, Thana. So it's very hard to communicate, and at that time there are no mobile facilities or anything. So when I start my work as a trade union member, because I joined the union in 1995, and I saw that picture that the trade unions are totally male dominated. The general secretary is male, president is male, whatever the post, only they are the males are deputed there, are elected there, and the workplace they are also male dominated. And I come to know that these women conductors are facing a lot of problems like as sanitation facilities, restrooms, creaches, and their duties, hard duties, long hours duties. So they are coming towards me and asking me, Didi, can you please help us? Like that way, now I realize that we must have some women leaders for these women workers. So I start my first fight with my trade union leaders, because I told them that you all male are working here. There is no voice for women leaders here. So please think about these women conductors, women cleaners. So you must have some space for us. So from, I think I had fight for 5 years, and in 2015 we got reservation for women members in the trade union. Means that their criteria means now we had the women leaders at from bottom level to central level, means from depot level to division level to central level, they had reserved 2 posts for women leaders. So my intention is that if women come on the front side and they spoke about their issues and they try to resolve the issues, if they give some training of leadership, women issues will be, because one woman can tell her problem to the another woman. If she is sexually harassed, she is not having that type of courage to speak any brother that male work behave me like this way. So my first requirement is that we must want women leadership to resolve women's issues, because they it's very easy to us to understand their issues. So thus this is my first victory, that we got women reservation in trade union. Then I start leadership development programs in my union. So we bring the division women members, depot level women members, and give them trade union leadership. Why unions? Why we collect on the one platform? How to collect our issues? How to put before the management? How to communicate with male leaders? Like this way, we give the training, and this way we are having the. And we also give gender equality, such type of workshops for them. And we also fight for the safety at workplace, because these women conductors are working in the buses, and at that time passengers harass them at the workplace. The duty allocation clerk or booking clerk or the depot manager, all these women are harassed by these people. So we have in 2021 we are having very nice program for that no violence at workplace. No mental harassment at workplace. We want safety workplace. So such type of campaigns we launch day by day. And then we are also having one survey in 2019. It's regarding domestic violence survey, and my women's amazing working at that time. We collect the data, how domestic violence impact on the workplace. So that questionnaire, and from India we fill up 16,500 questionnaires. We reach up to every transport workers, transport women workers and unorganized women workers. So like that way we collect the data. Then we also fight for the sanitation facilities. Our first demand is that if you appoint women conductors, then why don't you provide restroom for them? Why don't you provide toilets for them? We want sanitary vending machine, because there are a lot of issues. And we also have one survey about the miscarriages of women conductors. Because in 2050 I had done this survey. I had visited all the divisions in Maharashtra, 31 districts. I went there and I take the meetings of the women conductors. And at that time, the women conductors reply me that she faces 3 or 4 times she is having miscarriage or abortion. So I make the survey and I come to the conclusion, and we analyze it and do the report to the management, that because of these duties, these women conductors are facing miscarriages. So you must give table desk job or any easy work to her when she is pregnant. But the management denied these things. They said that there is no relation among this abortion and this duty, no relation. So I found, and at that time media helped me. We had very news on the in Maharashtra, all the newspapers and electronic media helps us. And there is the very pressure on the management regarding this issue. And at last, that time's transport minister, he agreed that yes, only because of this job they are facing miscarriages. And that time they announced that every woman conductor will get 3 months additional leave along with the maternity leave. That is the great victory in our this is the record, that now our women conductors are getting 9 months maternity leave. Means 6 months maternity leave plus 3 months additional leave. So she can never face the problem of miscarriage or anything. So this is a great fight for us. Then we are also working with our male leaders, and we are creating the atmosphere that they must help us, because if there is a gender equality or a male and female come on same platform and they go ahead, then definitely we can achieve that things. So that type of, so now we are having a strong connections of women members. Now I am having 500 women leaders in my union. My union's name is Maharashtra ST Kamgar Sanghatna, and this is the recognized union, and it is affiliated to ITF. And we are having a alliance group, various groups. Like now I am really feeling very happy that INHAF and safety pin, such type of institutions are working on this matter. This is very important matter. But at that time, before COVID, we are having the alliance group, and a lot of NGOs are connected with us. And we are taking workshops for these women, for our women members, and how this helps us in the COVID, when all are in home at that time. Some women are having domestic violence or thing. At that time, we are having connection with Tata Institute of Social Work, and there is a helpline. मला काही बोलायचे आहे. Means I want to speak something, and that helpline helps a lot of our women conductors to rescue from the domestic violence. So such types of programs we are launching from last 35 years, and I am really very proud that we are now having a lot of women leaders in my sector. They are also working, coming ahead, asking questions to the management, asking questions to the trade union leaders, and they are now having the courage, and the team is named as Nirbhaya. So we are having thousands of Nirbhayas with me. And I'm proud to say that all Nirbhayas are calling me as mother. In Maharashtra, they said I. Every woman member of my union call me I. So I get the honor of mother of all these 6,000 women members of my union. We are having 8,000 women workers in my sector. And now women drivers are also recruited now. And they are also having a lot of problems. So now we are fighting for these women drivers also. So there are women mechanics, women drivers, women conductors. Now our Maharashtra government also announced 50% concession in ticket to the all women travelers. You know about it. So a lot of women are traveling. So our suggestion is that if the passengers are in the huge इतनी बढ़िया संख्या में अगर महिलाएं प्रवास कर रही है, so why don't you appoint women conductor and women driver, so she will feel safe. Because if the driver is on the driving seat, there is a woman driver, on the conductor seat there is a woman conductor, and in the bus full of women passengers. This is a very nice picture to us. So we are also fighting for that. You recruit a lot of women conductors and drivers, but unfortunately our management has taken the decision of not recruiting the no for recruitment because of the loss for the transport sector. But we are fighting for that. So my intention is that it's not happen in one day that Nirbhayas create and work. We spent 20 years for these days. It's not easy to gather all that women workers from bottom level. Like as some Nirbhayas are from Gadchiroli, some are from Chandrapur, some are from Palghar division. So we bring them on same platform. We make trust in their heart that this union and this platform of Nirbhaya is only for them. And now we are having also passenger unions with us. So we are having exchange of ideas. So what are we expecting from the passengers? We want respect from the passengers, because sometimes the passengers do some mischievous and tease that women conductors and do some wrong things. So at that time, we stand for these women conductors. There are thousands of stories of these women conductors, how they are tackling and how we are helping, how we are making pressure tactics on the management, and how we are once one conductor is harassed by a co-worker, at that time we all women members stand behind her and force the depot manager to suspend that fellow who had teased her. So if one incident happens, then automatically other will keep quiet. Oh, they are having the strength. Nirbhayas. Now there is a, I don't say terror, but now there is everybody is think that, oh, these women are member of Nirbhaya, and if there is a Nirbhaya, they will they are just like as a मधमाशा कि मया उसको क्या कहेंगे, मधमाशाचं पोळं जसं असतं तसं.
Honeycomb. Honeycomb.
So if somebody just on the all, please come and bite, like that way we are working nowadays. So, and I'm feeling very happy nowadays. I had taken voluntary retirement from my job, and I'm totally full-time working for all these women members of my union. And my dream is that one day these women had a great leadership among them. Now they are participating in international seminars. My women, those who are working in the as a conductor, they never sit in the aeroplane, but now they are taking the benefit of that, these international seminars and everything. And lot of associations are helping. They are taking workshops. And we are also appealing all these NGOs that you come here and work with these women members. Now women drivers are also there. So we are working with the women drivers. We forced our management, don't send these women conductors to the night out. If you want to send them to night out duties, you must give them secure restrooms where they will sleep silently. And if not, you are not having right to send them to the night out duties. So management agreed. Now they publish one circular that don't give late night duties to the women conductors, like this way. Then when they are pregnant, they get the desk job. So now we are having a lot of challenges before us, but we are working. We are not stopping. And thanks to my male leaders who are working with me, though I am fighting with them, they agreed with my demands. They said that, yeah, you are doing good job. So they agreed. And now I'm asking them that you must reserve some fund to the women welfare programs from your union's money. So like that way, we are doing a lot of things. Now I'm also giving them training on the climate change, systematic exclusion, like this way, because most of women are only उनको बाजू किया जाता है. They are kept beside only because they are women. We are having a department promotion. If I completed 280 days in the year, then I will able for the department promotion. But these women are taking maternity leave, pregnancy leave, abortion leave. Those days are not counted as a present days. So they are not getting the facility. So nowadays, we are fighting for that right. You don't deserve us from that facility only because of maternity benefits. So we want that you must assume that we are present on that days. So these types of lot of fights are there, lot of, and I had lot of time I had threatened by the management, keep quiet, otherwise you will be terminated from your job, keep quiet, you don't show such type of things for these women workers, do your job, just look to your family, no need to involve so deeply in these issues. ये तो चलते रहता है, ज्यादा मत सर को तुम भी दर्द ले लो और हमको भी मत दर्द दे दो. This type of behavior is by management, but I never कभी डरी नहीं. काम करने का है तो करने का है. मेरी बच्चियां हैं, मेरी बच्चियों को अधिकार मिलना चाहिए. मेरी बच्चियां निर्भयता से काम करे, इसलिए निर्भया टीम है और वो बहुत अच्छी तरह से काम कर रही है. थैंक यू. एंड मुझे भी लगता है कि वो किमिया जी आप वो ये बताइए हमारा वीडियो जो मेरी महिलाएं आज निर्भया बोल के काम कर रही है.
I'll present the video.
आप इसमें देखेंगे कि किस तरह से ये महिला लीडर बन गई है. साउंड नहीं है, साउंड किमिया जी साउंड नहीं है. साउंड नहीं है.
अभी भी नहीं है.
नहीं अभी आई थिंक वो ट्राई कर रही हैं. आई थिंक शेयर साउंड.
Is it audible now?
नो
ओनली ऑडियो बट ये आवाज नहीं है.
जब तक
अभी
हाँ,
आया
अब ठीक. थैंक यू. थैंक यू शीला जी। एंड वाकई में आप एक निर्भया जो यूनियन है आपका, निर्भया का जो नाम है, निर्भया मीन्स फियरलेस इन इंग्लिश। एंड ये बहुत ही आई मीन आपकी टेस्टिमनीज काफी इंस्पायरिंग और अमेजिंग है। आई वुड लाइक टू टेक वन मोमेंट टू एक्नॉलेज इंटरनेशनल ट्रांसपोर्ट फेडरेशन। वी हैड अनदर panelist Neha Prakash, who could not join us, but would like to talk about International Transport Workers Federation, which is democratic affiliate-led federation, which is connecting more than 700 trade unions from 150 countries to secure rights, equality, and justice for workers globally. They are the voice of nearly 18.5 million transport workers across the world. And I think we all know the power of union and the wonderful work that ITF and ITF is doing with trade union. Before we move on to the next panelist, I would like to share some of the statistics in terms of transport workforce. In India, according to periodic labor survey, periodic labor force survey 2021-2022, it shows that our female labor force participation rate is 32% as compared to 77% for males. And within that, 7% of men are employed in transport sector, and for women, the rate is 0.2%. That's the challenge we have, attracting and retaining women in transport sector. And globally, this number is women constitute less than 25% of global transport workforce. Now, with that, I would like to move on to our next panelist, which Heather Allen, who has more than 20 years of international experience in gender, urban transport, sustainable development, and climate change. She has been working with ITF as and sustainable transport with UK Transport Research Lab, Sustainable Transport Group, and she has done a lot of research. So, Heather, we would like to know some key insights from your recent research on counting women so that women count, and the toolkit on gender imbalance in the transport sector. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sonali, for your kind introduction. I'm presuming that you can hear me okay? Yep, okay, perfect. So let me just very quickly also share this this screen, which has just got one slide on it. Oops, there we go. Hopefully you can see that. Can you, how's that? Yes? Okay, perfect. So, I see that we've got, yeah, you may be seeing some Spanish subtitles. I don't know if you wish me to switch them off, but I've been doing some work in Latin America, so it came up automatically. I'm sorry about that. Let me just see if I can, one moment. Just a second on that. Shouldn't subtitles. Okay, well, no, I can't seem to switch them off very easily from this this screen. Anyway, thank you for the organizers for inviting me. And I'd like to just put what we've heard, which is really impressive. You know, it's really impressive to see what India is doing and how women are entering the transport sector. I'd like to just put this into the international context, and also to bring it into the context of cities, as Mr. Shah introduced us. He said, you know, cities are the engines of growth. So the urban development concept and how our urban areas develop over the next 25 to 50 years is going to not only influence our quality of life, but our health, our financial independence, so many things. And we do know that, you know, the urban areas now hold more population than the rural areas. We know also that most, let's say, cities have the ambition to be inclusive, livable, safe, and secure, but they're not. That is, unfortunately, the reality of today's life, is that cities are not inclusive. They are not very safe areas. They are not free-flowing with the connectivity and accessibility for everyone. So the title of the webinar is to rethink urban mobility. And so we definitely need to rethink what we're doing in the city area. So that's planning, investment, development. We also know that, you know, women are nearly half the global population and more than half of the urban population. So if we're going to get our cities to work properly, then we really do need to understand what the women need to get around cities. We need to understand better kind of what does accessibility actually mean? So accessibility is not just physical accessibility, it is also the financial accessibility, so the affordability of transport. It is also the availability of transport. It is also the cognitive understanding of how you use transport. And on top of that, of course, the physical accessibility. So are people able to use it physically? And can they actually climb into the buses? Can they get around the city with sidewalks? Is there clear information so that people understand how the systems work? At the moment, it's pretty conclusive that it's not working as well as it could do. And we obviously know that the data around the different groups of people that need to use transport in an urban area is relatively poor. It's getting better over the past 20 years. I've been working in this area for a long time, and it is getting a lot better. There's now many options. It used to be incredibly expensive to collect data, but now that's no longer the case. We can collect data quite easily, quite quickly. As mentioned in the introduction, I did an interesting study a few years back called Counting Women's, so that women count. And this was an international study where we asked women transport professionals and urban planners whether they felt that the current evidence base, which is used obviously for city and transport planning, was inclusive and did actually reflect the realities and the daily experiences of everybody, meaning women and men. And the overwhelming conclusion of these professionals was that it did not. It gave a bias towards an able-bodied professional worker. And when, as a young person, let's say a person between 20 and 25, this can be male or female. They have very similar kind of behaviors, particularly in the global north, maybe a little differently in the global south, but certainly in the global north they do. But once women enter different life stages, they start having children, they start having a family, their parents get a little bit older, their mobility patterns change in many different ways, whereas male mobility patterns tend to remain the same. So there becomes this complete dislocation between transport planning for inclusiveness and transport planning in reality today. So as I mentioned, very poor levels of data, which need to be improved. A lot of the work that I do kind of looks through four different lenses. Women as users, women as workers, women as decision makers and investors, but also at the infrastructure and the gendered nature of infrastructure. So if we think a little bit about that last point, the gendered nature of infrastructure in respect to cities, we need to obviously be aware as well that it will come as no surprise that the majority of architects, the majority of mayors, the majority of transport ministers, the majority of CEOs, management of operating public transport, buses, metros, trains, whatever, it's all men. So it is a very masculine, biased universe that we are looking at. And yet, as I said earlier, there are actually more women living in urban areas than there are men. And if you actually look at the social economic divisions between this, you will also find that there are more single-headed households. You will find that women tend to be poorer. They tend also to be unemployed if they have been in formal employment. There's been a lot of fallout from COVID. So women tend to be in the poorer income levels. And we also know that poorer income communities have poorer transport connections. So this link in rethinking transport is really, really important when it comes to inclusiveness and obviously the sustainability and making sure that urban areas can really become those engines of growth which deliver the GDP that everybody aspires to have. We've heard a little bit and some really inspiring stories this morning about workers. I just on this screen, I hope you can see it now. The slide that I have is on the most recent work that I did last year, which was the Gender Imbalance Toolbox. I'm going to switch that thing off again because it's very annoying to have the Spanish subtitles. But you can see that the most recent data, in fact, is that there is just under 17% in total globally of women working in the transport areas. So this includes, unfortunately, it's very difficult to get specific data. It includes things like logistics. It includes things like information technologies. It includes postal workers. It doesn't actually just look at the transport component of the labor force. So it is a little, it already overestimates what is there. And if you look, we found that the most recent information that we have is that in Asia, it's actually 12.2% across all of Asia. And you just mentioned how low it is, particularly in India. So, 0.2% of the actual transport labor market is women, is female. So there's really so much possibility to change that. If we also think a little bit about what we need to do, we know that we need to change from the internal combustion engine and fossil fuel powered vehicles and mobility towards cleaner energy sources and to low carbon modes of transport. And of course, the electric mobility growth has been very encouraging over the past 10 years or so, but there's still a long way to go. And so let me just put up a second slide just to give you an idea of the kinds of opportunities that we have. So we've already looked quite a lot at how to insert women into the existing transport system, and with great success. It's been very encouraging to see how they can fit into that. But I'd like to point out to you that there are really a number of very interesting new entry points for women to take part in the new, cleaner mobility paradigm that we need to develop. We obviously have to change our current paradigm, and I've gone over most of the points of that. You know, it is not inclusive, it is biased. It does not provide the safety and security that is needed. It is not comfortable or convenient, particularly for half the population. So we need to change. So this slide just gives you some of the entry points for the e-mobility system. And women can play a very important role in this transition. And I think it's very encouraging that there's an opportunity here for really pushing how to make this, the transport sector, much more inclusive and diverse. There are two, I mean, you know, there are more than two, but the two real reasons that we need to also do this is, for the one side, we need to get women into the labor market. We need to make sure that women are able to be financially independent, that they have access to education. And through that, we will be able to deliver some of the Sustainable Development Goals, which after all is the roadmap for the international community. And on the second level, we know that in order to change, you need to be innovative and you need to be creative. And there's masses of studies and work that shows in order to be innovative and creative, you need diversity. And therefore, that is where a more diverse workforce, more diverse, let's say, landscape of entrepreneurs, of innovators, include women. So, you know, that will actually deliver what we are wishing quicker than if we continue with just a one-dimensional approach to transport. And if you think of also this transition that we need to move towards, it's not just about mobility, but it is also about the technical aspects. We know that women, for instance, interpret the functionalities of technology in a different way to men. So it's going to be very important that the charging infrastructure is understandable for women so that they know how to use it. The placement of the charging infrastructure needs to be around centers of interest that women go to as well as men, because otherwise they will be excluded from this development and this transition to clean mobility. So there's a lot of great opportunities, but we do need to make sure that the change is there, and it's really important to see that women are active in this section. I've been very encouraged over the past 20 years to see that there are more and more women now really visible, and I did a webinar around a kind of Asian context a little while back, and I was able to identify, you know, some very powerful and important women in the transport sector across Asia. So it is changing, but it is very difficult. And we need obviously more women at the decision-making level and investing level. There was a recent report in 2023 of women in politics, and it showed that actually only 17 out of the 204 ministers of transport and secretaries of state of transport are female. So we've got a lot of work to do to get parity in that. And if I can just wind my last comments back to the importance of the Sustainable Development Goals, almost every country, and India is certainly one of them, that needs to report on the Sustainable Development Goals. Most of the goals have a gender component, which actually will deliver or not deliver that particular goal. Education is one of the absolute key goals. And education in the Indian context for women is really important. So that is linked back to transport. If you don't have safe, secure, available, affordable, convenient, comfortable transport and mobility, then we can't get women into the education system and accessing this knowledge that they so desperately need in order to contribute to India's development and the urban development over the next 25 years. So I'd just like to leave you with that last thought, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Heather, for sharing such valuable insights. And I agree with you that we need more and more women as decision makers so that we can move this needle. We can bring about more changes. And I am also hopeful about this new sector that is developing. And let's see how it goes. Now I'll move to Stefanie Holzwarth. She works as a program management officer in UN Habitat's urban mobility team. She has over 8 years of experience in providing policy support and technical advice and strengthening the capacity of governments around the world on multimodal transport system. Heather, can you stop sharing
Yeah,
screen?
I'm just trying to do that. Yeah, there we go. Stop share now. It's come up.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Over to you, Stephanie. Can you, in your work and projects at UN Habitat, what has been your experience of women working in the transport sector, and what are some of the findings and good practices that have been adopted to bring more women in the transport sector? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sonali, and I just want to thank all the previous speakers because I feel very inspired about what I've heard, and it's kind of nice to be part of such a courageous and impactful panel. In UN Habitat, I think we share very similar views. We also believe that if you strengthen the role of the women in the transport industry, you are actually creating safer mobility for everyone at the end of the day, and you would also be able to achieve in a very comprehensive manner the SDGs. We heard from Heather just now that women have always been underrepresented in the workforce. The number, I think, is less than 17%. And I think that really shows that there is a lot that has to be done. As part of UN Habitat's efforts, and we are the United Nations Agency for Cities, for those that may not know, we have done various studies and projects in different countries, but today I would like to share a little bit from the experience that we have had on the African continent in a very specific study, and I would like to share a few insights from that just to exemplify also with some numbers and some statistics. As I think very similarly to the Indian context, also in many African cities, public transport has been highly male dominated for the last many years. But as more women are actually seeking employment opportunities, we can see that there is a slight increase in women venturing into jobs that are related to the transport industry. But in reality, as we have also heard, there's a lot of challenges that those women are facing, first and foremost with regards to, for example, safety concerns, but also with regards to juggling family responsibilities and the job in a way at the same time. For us to shed more light onto the challenges that they face, we had actually conducted what we call the gender equity assessment a while back within a local NGO in Kenya, which is called Flown Initiative for those that may know them. And what we did is to in a way conduct interviews and research to better understand those gender inequalities that exist in Nairobi's minibus industry. What the study has revealed is very insightful. We, for example, found out that only 7% of the minibus service providers are actually women. And those that are currently working in the transport industry actually occupy the lowest paying jobs. So out of all the women that are working there, there's only 1% of them that is in the minibus top management, while 85%, for example, work as conductors. If you look at the age of women, we also found out that 85% are between 20 and 34. So it's rather young women that are in their reproductive age, and 94% out of the ones that were working in that industry actually are mothers at the same time. So you can also imagine what that means for them in terms of balancing the job and their family duties and other duties that they may have. More than half of the women that we had interviewed were not satisfied with their current working conditions. And one of the main reasons for that was actually sexual harassment. We found out that 76% of those interviewed women have either experienced or witnessed sexual harassment in their place of work on a daily basis. The majority of that would be verbal harassment, followed by groping, but also some women also reported being asked for sexual favors, for example, by the male counterparts, by the managers, by even clients. What is worth noting here is that 90% of the male operators actually said that also the women attire contributes to the sexual harassment, which was also, I think, a statement that was in a way quite insightful and surprising. From those sexual harassment cases, only 6% get reported to the police, while 32% of the victims that we had interviewed stated that they chose to do nothing about it. And only 2% of those cases are actually reported to the employee unions, and in a way the cooperatives that are organizing the minibuses. And I think that 2% is, I mean, it obviously shows a very low number, and it's in a way an indication of a general lack of trust that something would be done about those cases upon reporting. And I think the victims really reported that they felt very disillusioned by their existing reporting mechanisms, because for many of them, they said it doesn't really matter if they report or not, because they don't really assume that something will be taken up afterwards. Besides the sexual harassment cases, we also found out that there is quite a hostility towards women that are working in that field, sometimes from like friends or family members that don't fully understand why they would engage in that sector. Then there is additional challenges that comes with the working hours. In average, they actually reported that they're working 13 hours per day and they don't have any official leave days. So you can imagine what kind of an occupation that means for those women engaged in that sector. Then among the women that worked there, 94% actually did not have formal contracts with their cooperatives. And that means also that their employment status is just highly unpredictable, and especially troubling for those women that may have the sole responsibility of taking care of the family members, maybe as single-headed households. And then, as we have also heard a few times today, there's no protection against pregnant women or women that have small children, any sort of support that is provided to that. On the other hand, what was quite insightful in that study is that those cooperative managers who we also interviewed all acknowledged that women make very good employees, and the associations that they have reported in terms of female characteristics were, for example, humbleness, kindness, but also the lack of unnecessary scandals that are usually associated with often male operators. But despite that positive outlook that we have heard about in terms of the female employees, the representation has remained very low, and also the hiring of women actually is just very low. We then analyzed all that data and through in a way recommendations and conclusions about the needs of promoting women in the industry, and those included especially three that I would like to highlight. One of them was the need to develop clearer zero-tolerance sexual harassment policies that should also be enforced, so not that it ends up being a policy that no one follows up. Secondly, adopting family-friendly human resource policies among those transport operators that would, for example, include more flexible schedulings, maybe maternity leave, equal pay, job security, and all those kind of aspects. And thirdly, there is also need for promoting opportunities for female employees, such as, for example, also employee development programs and opportunities for them to also grow in the space, to make it also into those higher positions in the sector. We then turned those recommendations into a toolkit, which we call Gender-Sensitive Minibus Services and Transport Infrastructure for African Cities. And with that, in collaboration again with Flown Initiative, there was a lot of trainings and capacity building sessions that were followed through with the minibus industry, and that also then resulted in operators adopting some of the recommendations and some of the policies. And I think that was quite a nice achievement that is very evidence-based, and I think the numbers really spoke for themselves that something had to be done in that sector to make the situation more bearable for the women that are actually engaged in that sector. with that, I think I'll be stopping for now and be handing back to you, Sonali.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that research on. And I think the working conditions is definitely more improving working conditions of these transport workers is a very important critical area where we have to work towards. We in India also with Safety Pin did a study with women transport workers, bus drivers and conductors in Delhi at bus terminals. So we did focus group discussions and key interviews also, and we found that they had three key issues, and one was very basic as women's toilet, absence of women's toilet at terminals. Now, if we were to really create an enabling environment, making sure these women do join this sector, we have to start with such basic things as public toilet. And then they were also talking about a dedicated space for just as a restroom or even having lunch. So there were no, in our research, we found that there were no dedicated space for them to just rest out or not. And also, when we talk about sexual harassment at workplace or sexual harassment inside the buses or inside any transport mode, we often don't realize that it is also very important to train our bus drivers and conductors on how do you respond to such situation, because they were talking about how they have very limited rights as well as training to address and address these issues or take any action on these offenders. So these were the key learnings from our work that we have found, and as I can see, these are the challenges we all are facing around the world. Keeping the time, I would like to ask a common question to all our panelists, and maybe you can all share it from your experience, your sector. But as the title of our webinar is Rethinking Urban Mobility. So I would like to know what are the key areas where you think we need to change and in ways of how we are thinking urban mobility. Shrinivas, if we can start from you, you can talk about working with the government or anything related to your sector.
I think there are a couple of things that I think so when you are looking at urban mobility as an ecosystem, I think that there has to be a holistic approach. So one, we have already discussed about that, what you call it, gendered infrastructure is a very important thing, because we all know that cities are planned keeping men in mind, and women were mostly invisible for generations, I would say. So I think that needs to change. But within the transport sector, one, we believe that there has to be far more allyship with the men to make them understand why it is in their benefit, in fact, to make sure that there are more women in public spaces. So I think that is a lot of work that needs to be done. So how do you bring more men into this thinking process and make them, because right now what we are seeing is that there is so much of hesitation, there are a lot of issues. Secondly, I think somewhere we need to also look at, of course, it's a larger issue, but I think especially when you're looking at transport and looking at ecosystem, I think something to do with this whole burden of unpaid care work. Because women who are in Uber driver or who are driving buses for TTC or even whatever, ultimately after a 10 hours of shift, if they have to go and work for 3-4 hours at home, I think it is a grave injustice. So I think there are certain things that also needs. So for instance, I think so. Therefore, working women hostels, where probably if they are working little away from their homes, they have got a safe accommodation facilities where they can on a nominal basis they can get. The other thing that is also which we think is required is far more affirmative action from the government to look at licensing issues of how women access a lot of these kinds of trainings. So that also, in Delhi, they have made heavy commercial license and training and licensing process free. As a result, you see, there's so many women who are lining up and doing it. So I think these kinds of affirmative action across states are very important to make sure that women are included in this pie. These are some of the things that I think are very important.
थैंक यू श्रीनिवास। शीला जी, अगर मैं आपके पास आऊं ये सवाल लेकर, मैं ये जानना चाहूंगी, व्हाट इज अ लॉन्ग टर्म विजन, या आप क्या देखते हैं आपके जो यूनियन के साथ काम करने के लिए, और क्या सॉल्यूशन है?
Thank you, Sonali. Actually, I would like to congratulate every panelist. They had given very informative information to us, and it's really amazing to hear all from them. So my first thing is that the main challenges before us in next coming days is that we must see more and more women in the decision making level. If a lot of women are involved in the decision making process, I think the issues will resolve on that step only. So it's the need that management government or trade union, whoever maybe they must involve women in the decision making level. That is the huge challenge for us. And now the systematic exclusion, the drivers, now we are having 157 women drivers in our transport sector. Before COVID, they had selected for the training, and unfortunately 4 years they are only taking the training. Because of that COVID, their training stopped. Then there is the huge strike in our sector. Then their training stopped. Then the management declared that we are in the huge loss, so we will not recruit new more trainees. So that type of fight. So I want that more and more women workers now. Sister Stephanie also told, and then Heather also that we need more and more women in the public transport sector, public transport or anything, but we want to see more and more women in the transport sectors. So whenever we are doing about the sanitation or the sexual harassment, we must have some training programs from there, and government and management also take initiative role that they must create awareness regarding new act of their sexual harassment, or they must provide some information how the sexual harassment committee works, because unfortunately we are having the sexual harassment committee at the division level, and in the depot 70, 100 and 200 women workers are working there, and they are the victims of the sexual harassment, but the committee is up to the division district level, so it's very hard to move them to the district. So our demand is that you must form the sexual harassment committee at the depot level also, and only forming sexual harassment committee is not important. Creating awareness how the committee, because we must have that if I go to the committee I will get justice, because more women not go to the committee because they know that nothing will be happens. So these nervousness we must wipe out from their mind. So management also creates some programs that these committees are how helpful these committees. As a union leader I'm doing that job, but it's not possible me to reach everywhere. So that's it. And the next thing, that convention 190, we are fighting for that, that we must have the workplaces free with violence. So that's why we are creating awareness among the trade unions, because if the male leader supports us, because violence, we want violence free workplaces. No male should be the victim of violence, or no woman. Whole workplace we want violence free. So that's why we must argue with our management. We must argue with our government to adopt this convention or to rectify this convention. It's very hard, but if we all come together on same platform and fight for this, one day we will definitely rectify this convention. So that's it, the main challenge before me.
थैंक यू शीला जी। एंड आपने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट उठाया है, सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट एक्ट और पॉश कमिटी दैट नीड्स टू बी एट एवरी लेवल एंड दैट नीड्स टू बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड एट एवरी लेवल। विद दैट आई वुड लाइक टू नाउ मूव ऑन टू स्टेफनी एंड हेदर। When we rethink urban mobility, can e-mobility be an opportunity to increase women's participation in transport? So if we can start from Stephanie, if you can share some of the examples, or if we have any opportunities in that sector.
Yep, I'll be happy to do so. I definitely believe that e-mobility can be a game changer, and it was very nice to also hear from Heather how she looks at it very comprehensively with all the different components that do not just look at women as, for example, drivers, operators, but really kind of the whole value chain that provides those opportunities. we recently supported a project actually in Kigali, in Rwanda, where we supported women to become motorcycle taxi drivers. And we have trained 35 women for that with drivers training, and then 24 of them actually successfully got tested for their driving license, and then also received a motorbike end of November last year, actually. So we're still in that phase where we are assessing, the impacts and all that, but the project in that sense has been highly successful in actually creating those empowering conditions for women to be able to access licenses and then also, engage as drivers in that field. At the same time, we're also seeing a few challenges emerging, which is also, very good insights that would help us then also roll out replication concepts that take those into consideration. One of them, for example, was that some women actually faced sexual harassment by their male clients. Being on the motorbike, there's very, close physical proximity. So we noticed that there has been a few cases where the women drivers felt uncomfortable. So one of the things that we shifted in the course of the project is that many of those women are now actually working for delivery companies instead of carrying passengers. And that seems to be working out very nicely. That is one of the things that has been quite interesting to see. Another interesting feature that we're currently exploring with the additional project partners is setting up maybe a cooperative for those women, where the cooperative would then own the bicycles instead of the women, for them to be able to not, be on duty in a way full-time, full day, but have the opportunity that the same vehicle is then being used by different women in the course of the day. That would allow them more of performing more flexibly also their duties, maybe of their families or wherever else they would have to be. So there's a lot of lessons learned coming out, emerging from this pilot initiative, and we are very excited to turn that into an assessment and a report also in a while, and use that for the replication activities as valuable lessons learned. Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. Heather, I would like to pose the same question to you also about the e-mobility being an opportunity to increase women's participation in transport.
Thank you. Yes, certainly. I mean, I do really think that this is a great opportunity. It really is. We know we have to change. So we know that the current transport paradigm is not working. It's not ideal. And so now is the time to bring, new players in, new thinking in, new key indicators, new ways that we do things. That said, I think, first of all, the one thing I have seen progress in, but not enough. And where I think that there really needs to be investment and more dedicated information, and this webinar is one way of doing it, certainly. And that is, we need to mobilize more women to be vocal and active in the transport sector. There's so many different kind of sides or components to the transport sector that's actually really interesting for women, but it's a really opaque sector. There's the social connection. We've talked about that, how good women are when in the interaction with other humans and other passengers. They know how to deal with people. We've got good social skills. There is obviously there's the economic aspect. We need to make sure that it's affordable. We need to make sure that it's comfortable, accessible. We need to make sure that it's actually available as well, so that the way the transport system is planned. So I really still ask that, we need to invest in mobilizing women, and this can come also from grassroots level, because many women's organizations may be looking at health or education aspects of their communities, but they're not looking at how their women and girls access those particular services. So you really need to look at making that connection so that people understand that transport is one of the biggest components in the success of their own projects. So that's one thing. The second, excuse me, the second thing I really feel very strongly is that we need to overcome this STEM bias, this science, technology, engineering, maths bias that is still inherent in education and unfortunately will become part of the artificial intelligence and the meta universe and all these other things, simply because the biases that we have at the moment are still quite masculine. So we need to make sure that we make inroads in that. And here I see that India actually has, you know, you've got an incredible history over the past 20 years of very strong female interactions, particularly in the Bangalore area, you know, in Bangalore and wherever. There's really a lot of women who are active in the IT technology sectors, and this is something that could be really built on. And the third thing is, again, this was very clearly demonstrated with the examples at the beginning. Women need confidence to be able to engage properly with transport. Now, in international development kind of terms, this is called building awareness and capacity building, but actually it's all about confidence. So, you know, we really need to make sure that women can understand that transport is actually a great way for them to be able to earn a living, to be able to provide for their families, to be able to offer their siblings education, as was demonstrated. So people don't think of transport as a career, and that's something that really needs to change a little bit. So those are my 3 points as takeaways, I think.
Thank you, Heather. And you rightly said transport is a sector where people can think about as a career opportunity. And in recently, we have seen many e-companies, e-transport, e-mobility companies. They are training more and more women to be their delivery partner. They train them to drive two-wheelers because that's more accessible. They can get loans to own it. And then they are training, and then these women are going ahead and employed as delivery partners. But one sector where they still needs a little bit more push is how do we ensure safety of these transport workers? And when we talk about inclusive transport, we are talking about paying attention to making sure women access to transport infrastructure and services. But it also needs, and there is a necessity to ensure equal participation of women and men in the transport workforce. And that's all the time that we have for today. And I would like to thank all our panelists for sharing their insights and experiences. We have covered a lot of ground today, from the importance of skilling, training, having a union, having a support base, and also need for more representation for women as decision makers. Definitely, so that we can talk about their improving their working conditions, infrastructure, and last but not the least, sexual harassment in the transport sector. How do you ensure there is a proper complaint and redressal mechanism for such offenses? And thank you, INHAF, for organizing this, and more power to you. And I would like to thank all audience members who have joined us today on a Friday evening. We hope that this conversation sparks further interest and exploration. And I would like to hand over to Kirti ji for the last closing remarks.
Sonali ji, thank you very much. No, I thanked all the panelists and you to begin with, but that thank you was for making time, being available. And I want to thank you again for the content that you brought into this discussion. It was a very rich debate. Some very interesting ideas have come up, and thank you very much. I also wanted to kind of share and in fact ask support. We are working on women construction workers in skilled jobs. I'm an architect, and I go on saying that 50 years that I've been practicing architecture, I have not seen a woman construction, a woman mason, a woman carpenter, a woman plumber, a woman site supervisor, a woman, a small contractor. I have not done this in 50 years, and that is saying a lot. Now, I see lots of learning in terms of what you people are doing. Like, say, for instance, I want to go to Azad and Shrinivas Saab and say, look, we are essentially trying to kind of open up Pandora's box in a manner of speaking. Like, say, for instance, is it possible that you bring in the whole concept of, you see, construction industry is very hostile to women in skill jobs, very hostile. They're not allowed to enter, they're not allowed to kind of stay, they're not allowed to prosper. So I said, how, and I think this is going on for ages.
Yeah.
And I personally feel, of course, this evolutionary process, things should happen, capacity building should be done, things must change. I'm also time and again say, look, would reservation in construction job be an answer? An example I give is this. 10 years ago, I never saw a woman mayor. In last 10 years, all I've seen are women mayors in our cities. And this is all done by reservation. So I'm essentially giving one example, but what I'm trying to say is that Shrinivas Saab, Stefanie, Heather, we want to reach out to you and learn from your experiences to extrapolate in our work in construction, on construction workers, because I think there's a huge amount of learning in terms of what can be applied. And as a matter of fact, we could cut corners, we could cut time zones, and then I think and learn fast, because you've been doing this for a very long time. And we are also talking about women in skilled construction jobs. So I thought, we and my colleagues are going to reach you in no time for your guidance and advice, with our literature, that how do we kind of, make our paths match and do things. And Sheela ji, आप तो बहुत ही बलवान हो. So thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Sonali ji, for an excellent moderation. You didn't speak much, but you spoke a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
तो अब श्रीनिवास साहब आपके पास आएंगे.
जी बिल्कुल. Sure.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
giving
Thank you,
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's
Thank you,
terrific.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye.
Stephanie, are you in Nairobi?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Looking forward to reaching out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye.